Okay, so learning English, it can be a bit like trying to climb a mountain,
Yeah.
with like a dictionary in one hand and a grammar book in the other. But you know what? You absolutely can reach to the top.
You can conquer it.
Yeah, you can conquer this mountain. And this deep dive is going to be your guide to get you there.
Yeah.
We've gone through all sorts of expert advice and tips, and we're bringing you the most actionable stuff to help you reach your English goals, whether that's like doing well on exams or just being able to chat with friends.
And I think what's interesting is so many people get lost in just how much information is out there. The real key is understanding why things work.
That's so true. Yeah, and like I was reading about this thing called shadowing, where you basically just copy what a native speaker's saying. It sounded kind of weird at first, but then I looked into the research and
Yeah, it might sound a bit strange, but it's actually based on some pretty cool science. When you copy pronunciation and the way people's voices go up and down.
intonation.
Yeah, exactly. Intonation. You're not just training your mouth to say the sounds. You're actually creating these new pathways in your brain which make it easier to process and produce English.
Wow. So it's like rewiring your brain for English. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And speaking of connecting with native speakers, language exchange apps are blowing my mind.
Yeah, I know they're amazing.
Yeah.
They're a great example of how technology can help us connect. You can help someone learn your language, and they can help you with English.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, exactly, a win-win.
But wouldn't it be better to just focus on the basics first? I mean, you can't build a house without a good foundation, right?
Absolutely. You need that solid base. Just like with a house, if you want to be fluent in English, you need to know the core elements, the alphabet, all the sounds, and basic grammar. It's tempting to jump into more complex things, but if you don't have the foundation, you're going to run into problems later on.
So back to basics it is. But I gotta say, drilling grammar rules can be a bit, well, boring. Is there a way to make this whole foundation building thing a bit more fun?
Definitely. There's one technique that works surprisingly well is just narrating your day in simple English. It might sound basic, but just by describing what you're doing, like I'm making coffee or I'm walking the dog, you're getting used to sentence structure and practicing vocabulary in a really natural way.
That's so cool. It's like a secret little English lesson.
Yeah.
And if you like things a little more structured, there are always apps, right?
Oh, for sure. Apps like Duolingo and Babbel turn grammar and vocab into games, which can be really motivating. And then for visual learners, there's stuff like BBC Learning English and English Addict on YouTube.
So many options, no matter what your style is. So we've got the foundations covered. But when it comes to actually understanding people speaking, what's the secret weapon?
Listening is absolutely key. Think about it. When you were a kid, you learned your first language just by listening. The same principle applies to learning English. Listening helps you pick up on all the little things like pronunciation, intonation, and how conversations flow.
So not just having something on in the background, but really listening.
Exactly. And the best part is, it doesn't have to be boring. Listen to podcasts, music, your favorite TV shows.
So watching Friends for the 10th time is actually helping me learn English.
Well, shows like Friends are great because they use everyday language. Start off with subtitles in your own language and then gradually switch to English subtitles.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But eventually the goal is to get rid of the subtitles altogether.
Right. It might seem scary at first, but it forces you to rely on your listening skills. It's like leveling up.
Challenge accepted. What about music? Does singing along to English songs actually help?
Absolutely, it does. Singing along can help you internalize pronunciation rhythm and even pick up some vocabulary, all while having fun.
Awesome. That's going straight into my study routine. But let's be honest, the scariest part of learning a language is actually speaking it. That's when the fear of messing up really kicks in.
I totally get that. It's normal to feel a bit scared. But here's the thing. Mistakes aren't the enemy, they actually help you learn. Every time you make a mistake, you get the chance to improve your pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary.
That's a good way to look at it. But how do you get past that fear and start speaking with confidence?
Well, remember shadowing. We talked about that earlier. It's not just for listening. Choose a TED Talk or a video where the speaker is really clear and try to shadow their speech.
So it's like a vocal workout.
Exactly. And language exchange apps are great for this too. You can connect with native English speakers who want to learn your language. And you can have real conversations and get feedback.
It's amazing how technology can connect people like that. But early on, should we focus on just being clear rather than worrying about perfect grammar?
Yeah, you're right. Fluency is about communicating your ideas, not about sounding like a textbook. Just focus on getting your message across.
Yeah, that takes a lot of pressure off.
Yeah.
So we've talked about listening and speaking. What about reading? I love getting lost in a good book. How can we make reading in English less of a chore?
Well, the key is to find things that are at the right level for you. There are websites like VOA Learning English with articles specifically for language learners. And there are also graded readers, which are simplified versions of classic books.
So baby steps before trying to read something really complicated.
Exactly. And here's a tip. Don't just read passively. Keep a vocabulary journal, and when you come across a new word, write it down. But don't just write the definition, use it in a sentence.
That's a great idea. Make it personal. What about children's books? Are those okay to read?
Definitely children's books like Harry Potter or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory can be a lot of fun. They use really descriptive language and have great characters.
They're classics for a reason. Okay, so we've covered listening, speaking, and reading. Now for the one that I always struggle with, writing. Any tips to make it less scary?
Well, writing really helps you solidify your understanding of grammar and vocabulary, but it can be tough. The key is to start small. Just writing a few sentences in a diary every day can make a big difference.
So just writing about my day and my thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And as you get better, you can start writing emails, social media posts, even short stories. Just be creative and make it personal.
Okay, I like that. But sometimes even writing simple sentences feels hard. Are there any tools that can help?
Oh yeah, for sure. Grammarly and Hemingway Editor are like having your own personal proofreader. They can catch those little mistakes and give you suggestions.
That's amazing. Is there a way to catch those mistakes before we even use those tools, though?
Definitely. This might sound old school, but reading your writing out loud is really effective. You'll catch things that sound awkward or unnatural.
It's so simple, but it makes sense. What about using fan fiction or writing short stories? Is that a good way to learn?
Oh yeah, for sure. Anything that uses your interests can make writing feel more fun. Whether it's about a movie, a book, or a TV show, just make it enjoyable.
Okay, so we've talked about all 4 skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. But how do we make consistent progress? It's easy to get overwhelmed and lose motivation.
The key is consistency. Think of it like a marathon, not a sprint. You need to make English a part of your daily life.
So instead of doing these huge study sessions, it's better to do a little bit every day.
Yeah, exactly. Even just 10 minutes here and there will help you remember what you've learned.
Makes sense. But sometimes finding even 10 minutes can be hard. How do we make a routine that we can actually stick to?
Well, one strategy is to create a schedule that includes all 4 skills. Maybe you start your day listening to a podcast on your commute, then do a little speaking practice during your lunch break.
It's all about finding those little pockets of time.
Exactly. And the most important thing is to make it fun. If you love music, listen to English songs while you're getting ready. If you like being social, join an online conversation group.
It's all about making it personal. What about setting goals? Does that help with motivation?
Goals are crucial. They help you stay focused. What do you want to achieve with English? Do you want to have conversations, read books, watch movies? Once you have that big goal, break it down into smaller steps.
So instead of saying, I want to be fluent, I can say, I want to be able to talk about my hobbies in English.
Exactly. Make your goals specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
That's a great framework. It's really helpful. Yeah. Okay, so we've got our goals. Now, what about immersion? Is it really that important?
Immersion is basically surrounding yourself with English as much as possible.
So do I need to move to an English-speaking country?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
You can create an immersive environment right where you are. Start by changing your phone settings to English.
That's a good idea. What else can we do?
Try to think in English instead of translating from your native language. And here's a fun one. Label things around your house with English sticky notes.
I like that. It's like turning my house into a giant English dictionary.
Exactly. And if you want to practice speaking with people, join an English-speaking meetup or an online conversation group.
Those are great ideas.
Yeah.
Wow, we've talked about so many things. I'm feeling really motivated.
It's been great. But before we move on, it's important to remember that learning English is a journey, not a race.
That's true. It's easy to feel pressured to become fluent quickly.
Exactly. Just celebrate your progress. Be kind to yourself and remember, it takes time.
That's a great reminder. And speaking of motivation, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. What's one thing you can do this week to improve your English?
It could be downloading a language exchange app, watching a movie without subtitles, or just spending 15 minutes practicing each day.
Remember, even a small step can make a big difference. We're here to support you every step of the way.
You know, it's funny how we always focus on the tools and techniques
Yeah.
when it comes to learning a language.
Like the apps and all the grammar rules?
Exactly. But what about the things going on inside? Like our mindset, our motivation, how much we believe in ourselves.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's like having a fancy car. But if there's no gas in the tank, you're not going anywhere.
Exactly. And think about when you were a kid learning your first language.
Yeah.
You weren't afraid to make mistakes. You were just excited to learn and try new things.
That's so true. I guess somewhere along the way we lose that and start worrying about what other people think.
Yeah. So the first step is to get back to that childlike curiosity. Embrace those moments when something clicks. Celebrate even the smallest wins. And remember that every step forward is a step in the right direction.
I love that. It's like shifting from being scared to being excited. And what about those times when you feel like you're not making any progress? How do you stay motivated?
Rewards are key. Just like when you're training a puppy, give yourself a little treat when you reach a goal. It could be anything you enjoy. A nice meal, a new book, even just a relaxing evening.
It's like a little pat on the back for all your hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that always motivates me is connecting with other people. Is there a way to do that with language learning?
Oh, definitely. Language is all about connecting with others. So join a language exchange group, find a conversation partner online, or even just start chatting with English speakers in your community.
I love those ideas.
Yeah.
But to be honest, the thought of talking to strangers in English makes me a little nervous.
I get it. It can be a bit scary.
Yeah.
But think about it. Everyone in those groups or conversations is there for the same reason. They want to learn and connect.
So we're all in the same boat.
Exactly. And most people are super understanding, especially when they see you're trying your best.
That makes me feel better. Okay, so we've talked about mindset, motivation, and community. Now let's go back to some practical tips. We talked about active listening before, but can you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, active listening is about really paying attention to what you're listening to, not just having it on in the background. Focus on the pronunciation, the intonation, how the speaker emphasizes certain words.
So it's like listening with a magnifying glass.
Exactly. And here's a technique to make it even better. Shadowing. Choose a short audio clip, maybe from a TV show or a podcast, and try to copy the way the speaker is talking, their pronunciation and intonation.
It's like trying to sound exactly like them.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that get tiring after a while?
It can. So start with short clips and then gradually make them longer as you get better.
Okay. Start small and work your way up. Now let's talk about speaking. Any tips besides shadowing and language exchange apps?
Tongue twisters. They might sound silly, but they're like a workout for your mouth. They help you practice specific sounds and speak more clearly.
Tongue twisters.
Yeah.
Like, she sells seashells by the seashore.
Exactly. They're fun, challenging, and they really work. You can find tons of them online, and there are even apps that can give you feedback.
Cool. I'm going to try that. What about role-playing? Is that helpful?
Oh, yeah. Role-playing is a great way to practice real conversations in a safe environment. Think of a situation like ordering food, asking for directions, or even making a complaint, and then practice the conversation with a friend or a tutor.
It's like a rehearsal for real life.
Exactly. The more you practice, the better you'll get. Okay, let's move on to reading. We talked about finding books at the right level, but are there any other tips to make reading more enjoyable and helpful?
Definitely. Sometimes I get lost with all the new words and complicated sentences.
Try active reading. This means really engaging with the text instead of just skimming through it. Before you start, look at the title, the headings. What do you think it's going to be about? What questions do you have?
It's like setting the scene.
Yeah, and as you read, highlight important points, write down any questions you have. Try to connect the information to your own life.
It's like having a conversation with the author.
Exactly. And when you finish, take a few minutes to summarize the main points. What did you learn? Did your understanding of the topic change?
That helps you remember what you read. And speaking of remembering things, let's talk about writing. We talked about starting with diary entries, but how do we get better at writing?
Descriptive language. Instead of just stating facts, try to paint a picture with your words. Use vivid adjectives, adverbs, metaphors, and similes.
So make it colorful and interesting.
Yeah, and descriptive language isn't just for creative writing. You can use it in emails, reports, anything you write.
That's a good point. What about trying different writing styles?
Oh, definitely. Try writing a poem, a short story, a personal essay, even a song. It's a fun way to explore and find your own voice.
Okay, so we've talked about strategies for listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Now let's step back and look at the bigger picture. How do we make sure we're successful in the long run?
Setting goals is super important. Just like with anything else, if you have a clear destination in mind, it helps you stay focused and motivated.
I agree. But sometimes it's hard to know where to start. What kind of goals should we be setting?
Start by thinking about what you want to be able to do with English. Do you want to have conversations, read books, watch movies, write emails? Once you have that big goal in mind, break it down into smaller steps.
So instead of saying, I want to be fluent, I could say I want to be able to order food in English.
Exactly. And make sure your goals are SMART. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
I like that, SMART goals.
Yay!
Okay, so we've set our goals. How do we track our progress and stay motivated? Language learning can take a long time.
Tracking your progress is super important. It's like watching a plant grow. You might not see big changes every day, but over time, you'll definitely see progress. Keep a language learning journal. Use a vocabulary tracking app, or just write down your achievements in a calendar.
I like the idea of a language learning journal. It's like a diary of your language journey.
Exactly. And don't forget about rewards. When you reach a goal, give yourself a treat. It helps you stay motivated. Okay, now let's talk about something that a lot of language learners struggle with: comparison. It's easy to compare ourselves to others and feel bad, especially with social media where everyone seems to be perfect.
Oh yeah, I definitely do that.
Remember that everyone learns at their own pace. Some people pick up languages easily, others have to work harder. The important thing is to focus on your own journey, celebrate your own progress, and be kind to yourself.
That's a good reminder. It's so easy to focus on what we should be doing instead of what we're actually doing.
Yeah, just focus on enjoying the process and celebrating your own journey.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about self-care. This is something that often gets overlooked, but it's really important.
Yeah, I think we all need to take care of ourselves better.
Self-care is the foundation for everything. If you're not taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally, it's going to be much harder to learn. Make sure you're getting enough sleep, eating healthy foods, staying hydrated, and doing things that make you happy. It's all about finding a balance.
Exactly. Self-care isn't selfish. It's essential. Okay, we've covered a lot in this part of our deep dive.
We've talked about mindset, motivation, community, practical strategies, goal setting, and self-care.
It's been a really great conversation. But before we move on, I want to mention one more important thing.
Okay, what is it?
Remember to appreciate the beauty and diversity of the English language. It's not just about grammar and vocabulary. It's about the nuances, the little quirks, the way it sounds.
It's like exploring the soul of the language.
Exactly. Explore different dialects, learn some slang and idioms, discover where words and phrases come from. The more you explore, the more you'll enjoy learning.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And language is always changing, so there's always something new to learn. Stay curious, keep exploring, and let the beauty of English inspire you. I feel like we've learned so much in this deep dive about how to improve English skills.
Yeah, it's been great. We've covered everything from, like mindset and motivation to, the actual techniques and even like how to take care of ourselves. It's been a real journey. It has. And what's really amazing to me is just how resilient people are when they learn a new language.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's like you're rewiring your brain to understand all these new sounds and grammar and expressions. It's like learning a whole new operating system for your mind.
Yeah.
But so many people do it.
Yeah.
Because they want to connect and communicate and have new experiences.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. It shows how curious we are as humans and how much we want to push ourselves beyond what's comfortable. And of course, there's that amazing feeling you get when you finally master a new language.
Yeah, like you've unlocked a whole new world.
It is.
But let's be honest, it's not always easy. There are going to be times when you get frustrated or you hit a wall and it feels like you're not making any progress.
Oh, for sure. It's a journey with ups and downs, just like anything else that's worthwhile. The important thing is to remember that those difficult times don't mean you failed. They're actually opportunities to learn and grow.
I like that. It's like turning those setbacks into something positive.
Exactly. Every mistake, every obstacle is a chance to learn something new and try a different approach. It's like those fail-forward videos you see online where the biggest crashes lead to the most amazing discoveries.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So instead of being afraid of making mistakes, we can see them as valuable lessons.
Exactly. Figure out what went wrong. Adjust your strategy and keep going. And remember, you're not alone in this. Lots of people have faced the same challenges and they've come out stronger and more confident on the other side.
That's good to hear. Knowing that there's this whole community of learners out there who are going through the same thing makes it feel less daunting.
Absolutely. And remember, the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
That's so true. It's not just about reaching a certain level of fluency. It's about the experiences you have along the way, the connections you make, and how much you grow as a person.
Exactly. Embrace the journey, celebrate the small wins, and never stop learning.
This has been such an inspiring conversation. I feel so much more prepared to tackle my own language learning goals now.
Me too. It's been wonderful sharing these insights with you and everyone listening.
And speaking of our listeners, I want to leave them with one final thought.
Okay, I love ending on a high note. What is it?
Imagine yourself a year from now. You've been practicing your English regularly. You've faced the challenges head-on, celebrated your successes, and connected with other learners. What does your English sound like now? What can you do with a language that you can't do today? Just imagine that future version of yourself, fluent and confident in English.
That's a beautiful image to keep in mind. The possibilities are truly endless, and remember, you have the power to make that vision a reality.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of English language learning. We believe in you, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, happy learning.